Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. To live outside the law, you must be honest. These are the words of Bob Dylan. And the sacred masculine knows that laws were not all made with everyone's highest good in mind. He has his own moral compass, which means that he chooses to do the right thing, even if sometimes it might be against the law. People like Martin Luther King, William Wilberforce, Emily Pankhurst, Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, all broke laws in their endeavour to create a fairer and more beautiful world. Hello, and welcome to the 7th episode of the Bring Him Home Sacred Masculinity Rising podcast series. This is our time and space to explore principles, stories, and experiences of what it looks like to walk the road of and embody the sacred masculine. My name is Miguel Dean, and I'm the author of Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story. This is the true story of a conscious, passionate, loving relationship with an extraordinary woman, and how it played a significant role in the rising of my own sacred masculinity and the courageous journey I embarked on from my head back to my heart. My intention is that through sharing my personal love story in the book and creating this podcast series, I will provide the listeners with ideas of how they can catalyse their own journey to sacred masculinity. And this will in turn facilitate the divine twin flame union within the hearts of many men and women, so that we can create a more beautiful world for our children and the generations to come. Find out more about my book and the rest of my work at my website, migueldean.net. So, let's get started on the 6th principle, which we're going to touch on today, which focuses on our integrity. The principle is, I am guided by the inner compass of my integrity. C.S. Lewis said that integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. And I think that's a pretty good summing up. But let's have a look a little bit closer. For me, integrity is when our thoughts, our words, and our actions are all in alignment, when there is congruency. Now, I first came across the word congruency many years ago when I began some counselling training. And congruency was one of the 3 core conditions that Carl Rogers, who is the father of person-centred counselling, came up with. So the other core conditions are empathy and unconditional positive regard. But congruency is this quality that, like integrity, is when everything is in alignment. And what happens when we are congruent, or when we're in integrity, is that there is a trusting, a deeper trusting and a sinking into the roots, to the strength, to this alignment of who we are. This grows our trust in ourselves, and also our other people can feel that they can trust you as well, when your thoughts and your words and your actions are all in alignment. It's like if you're thinking one thing and saying something else, you can pick that up when somebody is demonstrating that. But when your thoughts, words, and actions are in alignment, there's something clean and clear about your energy. So let's zoom in even more. our thoughts. So the reality is that we choose our thoughts. I don't know whether you've ever contemplated that, but if we bring some awareness to our minds, we realize that we're always thinking all sorts of different thoughts. There's this traffic, like clouds floating by in the sky, all these words and thoughts coming by all the time. And it's up to us to choose which thoughts we would like to entertain. If they are, I guess the common error that people make is that they have these recurring thoughts that are rooted in old unconscious beliefs that keep coming to the surface and that just keep playing out. I am not worthy, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I won't succeed, I don't deserve to be happy. All these old programs that are running in us, often from things and experiences that we received when we were young. But as adults, we choose to practice mindfulness and we choose to become aware of our thoughts. Remember that you can become the master of your own mind, and that your mind is a great servant but makes a poor master. So we choose our thoughts. We decide which ones we would like to entertain, and we disregard the others. We turn the volume down. We let them go. As soon as our awareness brings attention to the fact that we are focusing on those things. Often we know that we're not focusing on helpful thoughts when there is a discomfort in our body, because the discomfort in our body is an emotion that arises as a result of the thoughts that we're having. Try it for yourself. Think of something beautiful and think of something positive and see how it feels in your body. Think of something negative, something challenging, something painful, something that's not in alignment with the truth of who you are. And you may well notice a duller, more unpleasant sensations or emotions arising in the body. So the first step of integrity is that we choose our thoughts. The next step is that we become responsible in choosing our words. And our words, of course, will arise from the thoughts that we're having. The mind moves first. A thought appears. And then we verbalize that. We can speak the thoughts that we choose to speak and express. Somebody once said that, if you're going to say something to somebody, just ask yourself first, is it kind? Is what I am going to say kind? And if it's not going to be kind, then maybe it's not the best thing. Maybe you don't need to share it. Or maybe you need to frame it in a way that's as kind as possible. Choose your thoughts, because your thoughts will then lead to the words. And your words, the communication that we have, is like the bridge that connects us with other human beings. And our connection with other human beings will determine to a large extent the quality of our lives. We choose our thoughts, and our thoughts then lead to our words. So neurolinguistic programming is really studied extensively, the power of our words. Neuro-linguistic programming, how our words program our minds and create neuro pathways in our minds. So, for example, something that I'm working on at the moment is that I don't choose to say the words "I have to," or that I should, or that I ought, because that kind of has an energy of sort of victim mentality. I have to do something, I should do something, I ought. The reality is that we have a choice about pretty much everything. I don't have to pay my taxes if I don't want to. There will be consequences as a result of that, but I don't have to. I could go to another country, or I could do things differently, or I could decide to live off grid, or I could make sure that I'm only earning enough so that I don't pay any taxes. We always have choices. even over taxes. And they say, the two certainties in life are death and taxes. Well, nothing is for certain. And I would, as a sacred masculine, I would also question whether death is a certainty, whether we have to do death. Yes, the body moves on, but I don't believe that is death, that is an ending, a full stop. My knowing is that that's just the beginning of a new chapter. So be mindful of the words that you choose, because they hold an energy, and they hold an energy if you're communicating them to yourself, and they hold an energy when you're communicating them to somebody else. Choose your words wisely. Every word has its own power. Miguel Ruiz said, be impeccable with your word. And one of the reasons why we're impeccable with our words is because often our words will lead to actions, lead to our own actions or the actions of somebody else. Our thoughts, our words, and our actions, they're like three different stages of coming into manifestation. So somebody that is in integrity is in alignment with their thoughts, their words, and their actions are all in alignment. It may be that you ask yourself the question, are my thoughts, words, and actions in the highest good of myself and others? It's a good question to ask. And as a sacred masculine, we keep bringing our attention back to that, because we know that in truth there are no others. We are all interconnected. And as that we do unto others, we do unto ourselves. Walking the path of integrity takes practice, but it's a practice worth doing. In many ways, integrity, truth, and honesty are all bedfellows. They all hang out in that same energy. We speak our truth. We are congruent. We're in alignment. We act. We speak. We think with integrity. We live our lives from a place of integrity. And why do we speak our truth? Why do we act in this way? Because it grows rapport. It grows trust. It grows self-respect. It grows self-worth. C.S. Lewis, who said that integrity is doing the right thing even when no one is watching. When we do make a choice that we know isn't the right thing, even if nobody else is watching, we don't feel good in ourselves. We don't feel in alignment. We don't feel in integrity with ourselves. This is why we walk the path of integrity. And part of that integrity may be, as I said, when we choose our words, that we speak our truth. We don't hold back. We don't say, oh, well, I better not say that because it might upset them. When we speak from a compassionate, loving place, we are not responsible for how somebody else responds to our integrity and to our words. You can't make somebody else unhappy. It's their choice how they respond to what you've said that will either make them happy or unhappy. If somebody says to you, "Oh, do you like my new car?" and you don't like it, then it's not in integrity to say, "Yeah, I think it's great." It's in integrity to say, "No, I think maybe you've gone a bit over the top there, and perhaps there's are you experiencing a bit of middle-age crisis?" Or you can speak honestly with them, and they may at first not like what you've said because they want you to reaffirm what they believe. But a true friend and somebody of value always appreciates integrity, because a true friend lets you know where you are, doesn't just pander to your needs. So we speak our truth because it honors ourselves. We know, again, we're not in integrity if we haven't spoken what feels right, what is in alignment with our thoughts. So we speak our truths, and how somebody else responds is secondary. but we speak our truth to honour ourselves and bring us into alignment and integrity with who we are. I'll share with you a short story from my own experience that demonstrates this point. And it was in relation to my landlord. And he came round one day after I'd called him, to have a look at a problem. And I was trying to explain to him, how the problem had happened. And he interrupted me and he said, "Will you just shut the F up?" And in that moment, I was really taken aback. But I wasn't really thinking quickly enough to sort of challenge him and say, "Hold on a minute, I don't choose to be spoken to like that." I thought it, but I wasn't quite, together enough and confident enough to say it in that moment. So the conversation wound to an end and he disappeared. And afterwards I sat with myself and I thought, I need to speak my truth to that man. I haven't been in my own integrity. Something doesn't feel right. So I said to myself, the next time I see him, I will make sure that I bring that up. And as is often the way, life brought that opportunity quite quickly. And I bumped into him. He was sat in his car on the street as I was walking by on my way to the shops. And I just paused and he wound down the window. And I said, John, when we talked the other day and you told me to shut the F up, I didn't really appreciate that. And it felt, it felt disrespectful. I wouldn't speak to you like that. And I just would rather that you didn't speak to me in that way. And he looked up at me and he looked a little bit surprised. And I could feel some fear in my body because John, the landlord, is a big guy. He goes to the gym and he's kind of like very sort of macho sort of person. And I thought, I wonder what his response is going to be. But I just knew that I needed to say this. And he looked up and he said to me, he said, I appreciate what you've said to me because I feel the same way. If somebody said something to me that I'm not happy about it, then I need to let them know about it. And he went on to tell me a story of when somebody had said something that he didn't like. And he said, I was lying awake in bed at night and it was 3:00 in the morning. And I thought to myself, that's it, I'm not having this. I need to have this out. And so he said he got out of bed and he drove round to this person's house and he kicked the door in and had it out with him. Now I said, well, John, I think that's slightly different to what I'm talking about, but, I appreciate the sentiment, and where you're coming from. And we both laughed a little bit. And then he put out his hand to me and he shook my hand. He said, I've got I have respect for you for speaking and saying that to me, because I think it's important that people do that because I do the same. And we parted ways. And, since then, my relationship with my landlord has improved. It's been better. I knew that I needed to speak my truth to him, that I needed to be in integrity, because otherwise I wasn't honouring myself and I was just coming from a place of fear. But it felt good. It felt good to have had that conversation. The sacred masculine walks with integrity, regardless of the perceived outcomes, because it feels in alignment with who he is. He steps towards fear. When he feels in alignment with his truth, he is in alignment with himself, which means that he can walk with his head held high. He has nothing to hide. He knows he can trust himself and others will trust and feel safe with him. And he becomes a reliable and safe harbour to himself and to others. I'll end with the blessing, which I wrote for the front of my book, Bring Him Home, a Twin Flame Love Story. May the energy of this podcast be a catalyst for the union of the divine, feminine, and masculine energies within the hearts of all men and women. May we have the willingness and determination to make the journey from our heads back to our hearts. May we learn to father and mother ourselves and take care of our inner child. And may we remember what it is to love ourselves, each other, all sentient beings, and this sacred earth, for ourselves, our children, and the generations to come. Thank you for joining me today. I am Miguel Dean, catalysing the twin flame union of divine, masculine, and feminine energies within the hearts of men and women. I'm the author of my new book, Bring Him Home, a twin flame love story, published by Sacred Stories Publishing and available online through booksellers worldwide. Or if you like, you could receive a personalised and signed copy from my website, migueldean.net. I invite you to subscribe to this podcast and to join me next time, where we will explore the seventh principle of sacred masculinity, which is, I work to deepen my self-acceptance, while also working to be the best possible version of myself. Until we meet again, be well. Aho.